Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Shut Up and Work podcast. That's right, where we bring the true things to life that's going on in the workplace and other life issues and other trending things that are happening out there in the world. So I am your host, the coach, along with my other two co-hosts, which are
SJ, how's everybody doing today?
I'm doing great.
I'm doing awesome. And the Reefer,
Yeah,
I am doing fine. Good to be here.
great, great, great. Well, it's great that we have you guys here. And sorry, minor delay, but as you said, everybody's doing well. Everybody's doing good. So let's go ahead and jump off in these topics. The first thing I wanted to discuss today, because I find it funny, there are a lot of news articles going around. I don't know if you guys were able to hear about it on the radio or see it on the news or YouTube or whatever. But of course, here in Texas, the universities, Texas A&M and other universities here in this state had decided that they were not going to ask applicants who wanted to work at the universities anything about diversity and inclusion. And then on top of that, you guys saw or should have watched the little clip I send with Roland Martin's show about diversity and inclusion, how it's failing and it's going down or whatever in that nature. So anyway, with that being said, jumping off into the subject, first, let's define this diversity. What does diversity mean? I mean, if you're a Black person out in the workforce or whatever, what does this mean actually? From a definition that I pulled off of George Washington University, there are several definitions out there along Google or whatever you read into, but the definition I pulled is saying it's basically used to describe individual differences based on your life experiences, your learning, your working styles, your personality types, and your social group or differences with that, which can be dealing with race, social, economic status, class, gender, sexual orientation, country of origin, all this other stuff. And it's also with affiliations, your cultural, political, and religious and other things that you may be involved in. So that's a pretty damn broad ass definition is the point I'm getting to. Now, inclusion. What does inclusion mean? Basically, it's almost the same as diversity from what I pulled off the internet is saying it's used to describe active international and ongoing engagement with diversity in people, in the curriculum, communities, intellectual, social, cultural, and geographic that a person might connect to. And also, before I go deeper into this, just want to say out there for YouTube and any other social media platform, this is fair use, fair use. We're just using this as a discussion to learn and teach. All right. So with that being said, after defining diversity and inclusion, now here's my thing, why this won't work for a Black person in the workplace. And I'm going to state three things here. Number one, my opinion, upper management has to be about it instead of just talking about it. And what does that mean? Basically, they need to show it in their hiring practices and also enforcing it on the job. If they want to meet the so-called diversity or DEI or DI or whatever the hell you want to call it, they need to take an aggressive stance and implement this. And when they see something on the job or an employee comes with a complaint or a question about something, they need to make damn sure that they're trying to handle it and have these things in their bylaws and company policies. But we all know more than likely in majority of the companies that probably is not going to happen. Moving on to number 2, diversity and inclusion pushes Black Americans. I feel it pushes our issues further down the ladder or the totem pole, whichever one you want to use it. Because basically from those definitions that I just defined earlier with that broad spectrum, I mean, a person can come into work and say, well, shit, I'm a werewolf today. You know, I belong to the werewolf class, so I have to go howl at the moon or bark or eat somebody, you know, during lunchtime, you know, or somebody could say, hey, I'm a gothic person, you know, those person that dress in the real dark clothing and stuff and try to look depressed, you know, things like that. Or, hey, I'm a smoker, you know, I need to be entitled to certain rights and things like this. So the point I'm getting at is if you have a problem, your boss doesn't like you because who you are or what your race is or whatever in that situation, then basically it can get swept under the rug because they got all these other people to deal with. They got all these other things to deal with, all these other issues that people come up with. Well, I can only write in pencil, so I'm a different group. You know, I can only type on the computer, as I was saying. So that's number 2. Moving on, number 3. Most companies in upper management, again, will not spend the money or time to investigate and research if they have the right employees working in their company that's going to buy into the diversity and inclusion change. And basically, I should have phrased that a little better. I'm talking about the upper management personnel, the high-level managers or executives, depending on what company you work for. Are they going to buy into it and actually spend money and, you know, for not only training, but as I said with number 1, enforcing these things and not just, oh yeah, we're just gonna do training. We're just gonna make you fill out this sheet for training, or we're just gonna have somebody come and talk at our company for 20 minutes about, you know, discrimination at the workplace. And once that person is done talking, we're gonna go back to putting a foot in your ass. You know what I'm saying? So those are my reasons why this whole thing is overrated. So without further hesitation, step up and whichever one, which SJ or Rifa, step up and let me know your thoughts.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. So, you're saying that the colleges are not going to be implementing the affirmative action and making reasonable attempt to have a diverse workforce? Or are they just going to try and do something new to go their own route?
I think basically they're saying this new program that got implemented after the death of George Floyd,
Okay.
diversity and inclusion was a new program that all these companies, you know, said, oh, we need to look at these things. Oh, we need to be more sensitive to our Black employees and things in that nature. But as this went on almost 3 years later, now they started, you know, just opening the floodgates with it. So the answer to your question, I don't know what every company's plan is as far as are they going to keep the program or do away with it. But as I mentioned earlier, I know that the universities here in Texas has basically said they're going to do away with it.
I mean, it's definitely understandable with Texas, but again, the colleges and universities, they're all pretty much about making money these days. So if that is If they had to put different resources and money into the program and they're not seeing any result from it, I could see why they want to get away from it. But like you said, the colleges and universities that implemented this program are pretty much doing it for PR points. As far as I'm concerned, black people already have several loopholes and mountains and streams that we have to climb, jump to get to just to move ahead. And this program that they got going on will open up more minority subgroups, which will eventually push black people further down the chain. And besides, it's all about the mighty dollars. Again, since the colleges are not making money off of this anymore, and I believe that's the reason why they decide to go a different direction with it. I mean, it could be good, but I'm just not sure about that.
Yeah. All right. SJ, what do you think?
Okay, so I'm going to address both of the two things that you mentioned, and I'm going to start with, I was going to start with number two, but I'll go ahead and start with number one. So
Okay.
I'm still hopeful. I'm still optimistic. In my heart, I'm an activist and I want to see change. So if there's any possibility of change, then I want that. So I understand what you're saying. Basically, you're saying that all of this DE&I is performative, that they did this and they put these things in place because it looked good. And maybe they did have good intentions at the time, but we all know that good intentions pave the road to hell. So what I'm going to say
I
about
like that.
DEI is this. Inclusion is what you use to achieve diversity. And inclusion is something that we all can do. You just have to learn how to implement it. And I'll give you an example. All of us, when we're at work, when we're at our jobs, we hear somebody say something that is ignored. When that happens, you stop the meeting and you reinforce that person's statement, their idea, their question. If Larry, the big boss, doesn't pay attention to what, Jacinta says, then you say, hey, wait a minute, Larry, did you hear what Jacinta just said? She just asked a question or she just made a good point. And then you turn to Jacinta and you say, would you please repeat what you said? I heard what you said. And I think that the rest of the team should hear it, because we do have a unique opportunity right now to make some change. And I feel like some change is better than no change. I, for one, do feel empowered to speak up in a way that I was never able to speak up before, because I was always having to weigh, is this worth putting my job at risk? Is this worth being labeled a troublemaker? Is this worth me possibly getting blacklisted within my industry because I always have something to say, or because I'm too militant, or because now they're going to call me racist because I'm trying to stand up for things that are actually right? So that's the thing with inclusion. The other way that we can all implement this is when you know of a coworker who won't speak up whatsoever at all. You can go to that coworker and you can tell them, hey, I noticed that you don't speak up. I don't want to intimidate you in any way, or I don't want to put you on the spot or make you uncomfortable, but I think that your input could be really valuable. Is there something that I can do to support you, to help you, so that we can get your input included, because your voice matters just as much as everybody else? So that's inclusion. And that is something that we can all do if we understand and know what that means. And if we start being more inclusive to the people who are normally silenced and not given a voice, then that's how we achieve diversity.
Okay.
So that's what I have to say about that. Now, on the second point, and I do want to see us achieve diversity, because truly, if it all comes down to money, and that's something that I'm pursuing in my career. I'm pursuing the ability to prove and to show how doing the right thing and doing the ethical thing is still going to be profitable. You don't always have to just be sleazy and do the thing that's been done the longest in order to make money. As a matter of fact, if you do the right thing and the ethical thing, you can probably make even more money because you're doing something that really is outside of the box. Everybody always tells us they want us to think outside the box, right? They want us to be creative. They want us to come up with new initiatives. But in actuality, what they really mean is, I want you to recycle the same old idea, and I want you to implement the same strategies, but I want you to put a fresh spin on it. Well, I don't want to hear about that. You said think outside of the box. So I'm bringing you something outside of the box. And then when you tell me, or when you revert back to old ways, again, now I feel empowered to say, hey, you remember when you said we should think outside of the box? So I want to do this differently. So when it comes to the second point that you made, which is where does it end? You're absolutely right. When we talk about civil rights and civil liberties, there are always people who are going to take a situation and use it to their advantage and possibly abuse it. I'm going to go to an even more extreme level. You know, everybody has the right to live their life the way they want to live. They should be able to do what they want to do, et cetera, et cetera. So let's say, for example, people who want to marry their bestie, their pet. Mm-hmm. Well, this pet is an important part of my life and they get all of my love and attention. So I should be able to put them on my insurance. I shouldn't have to pay a veterinarian separately because this is the only heir that I have. Mm-hmm. So are we really going to go now? I'm an animal lover and I believe in, you know, treating animals correctly, you know, being ethical, etc. But I also believe that humans and animals are different. There's a difference between, you know, animals can't sign a document. Animals can't give their consent. Animals do not outlive human beings for the most part, the type of domesticated pets that I'm talking about. Correct. So, you know, everybody has an opinion. In my opinion, that type of situation would be ridiculous. But there are some people who are going to feel very strongly and say that it's their right. Well, you know what? If you want to list on your will, your pet, your cherished family member, your fur baby, whatever it's called, as the heir to your estate, that's fine. But that doesn't mean that we need to change laws to make it possible for you to legally marry this pet. Right. So I definitely get what you're saying in terms of the spectrum of where does it end? But we know in particular as Black people, how long we have been fighting for equal rights in this country, how we still are not anywhere near being equal and having that equity available to us. And even in the instances where we did build our own and we did create our own and we were able to sustain our own, what happens? The systematic racism came in and literally burned it down. Right. So, you know, I feel like a push in the right direction is great. It's like the story that we talked about previously on a previous podcast where this group came up and said that they wanted to get Aretha Franklin's song Natural Woman banned because supposedly it was offensive to transgender women. Right. And that turned out to be a hoax. But I'm sure that there were a lot of people who jumped on board and said, yeah, that's true. That's right. I don't want to hear that song anymore. But they were the minority. There's always going to be extra opinions. There's always going to be noise. If we can stay focused and take some individual responsibility, we can definitely make change. And I understand that the whole DEI thing has been performative, but I feel like there's an opportunity, there's a window, there's a crack. And if we can wedge ourselves into that crack, then we can bust it wide open and make the whole thing shatter. It's happened. There have been glass ceilings, especially as it pertains to women. And, you know, you have to just kind of keep chipping away at it and work at it, because what's the alternative? To one, try to break away and build our own. And I'm all for Garveyism. Or to two, just be complacent and accept things as they are. And I can't do that. It's just not in my nature.
Oh, understood. And what is your opinion on the third point where I was talking about upper management, how they need to aggressively get involved with this?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, my experience has been that management is the fool. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the managers are put in place for whatever reason, and they really don't have management skills in general. So I don't even expect them to have skills that are going to employ DEI. I do think that the management should be forced to undergo some type of training for DEI. I think that might help the situation. But if you have a person who really isn't a leader in the first place and who doesn't know how to handle people and manage them and pull out the best from them and put people together to complement each other with their strengths, as opposed to just, you know, making things difficult for them and getting the worst performance out of them, why would we expect them to be able to take something as important and as complicated and as essential as DEI, and trust it with them. See, here's the thing. In a lot of companies, the DEI initiatives are extended to the employees. The employees just don't participate. There are employee resource groups, employee business groups. I'm sure that if you look at your company, there are groups that are set aside for African Americans, Hispanic people, Asian people, veterans, people with different abilities. There might be groups for people from different generations to help bridge the generation gap. And if those groups are not available, then you can step forward and ask your company if they can please employ that, especially if you work for a larger company that has, a corporate, national, or international presence.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to want to see that kind of thing. But you know what people say then too? Oh, well, if you're not going to pay me, I'm not doing all that extra work. And that's fine. That's your prerogative. But don't forget, this benefits you too, because now this goes on your resume and shows how you're a leader and what you can do. And also you could be improving the workplace for yourself as well as your fellow coworkers and your future coworkers. Mm-hmm. There's a fine line between using them to your benefit and letting them use you. And I know that sometimes it gets very tricky and sometimes it might be both. But again, what are we going to do? Are we just not going to try, or are we going to get in there and see if we can do something different?
Nice. I love that response. I love
Thank
it.
you.
I love it. Rifa, do you have anything to add?
As far as, I don't totally agree on what she's talking about, but a lot of that stuff too. Yeah, the company, even the company I used to work with, they have the program available, but the problem is the employees are so busy to where even though the program's available, there's no way for them to actually, be able to take advantage of it, because they're working. By the time they get off of work, either they have to go to a different job because of the pay, or they go home and take care of kids, and then they're back in the same day doing the same thing. So unless those programs are available to where they take few minutes or 30 minutes at work to where there's somebody up there to help them out, it's like it's non-existent, because again, they have to be able to access and be able to do those things.
Yeah. And
okay.
And that's why I said upper management, because of those things you just named, Rifa. Upper management needs to be the one to implement that, to make time, to tell the first line managers and stuff, hey, you're gonna have to make time to do this in whatever field they work in. Whether it's once a week or whatever, or like I was saying, you need to be able to have this in the policy and let people know, like what SJ was just saying. If you see something occurring, they need to say something and they need to address it immediately. So that was a great point too, Rifa.
And I'd like to add one last thing too.
Oh, yeah.
In those situations, Rifa, especially like if you're at a part-time job in particular, this is when you get a group of people together, you all sign a petition, you present it to management and say, hey, I am interested in this. I do want to get involved, but because of these circumstances, I'm not able to participate outside of work hours. So we propose that you give us half an hour every other week to meet and put together this type of, put together something for this group, for this whatever the situation is going to be. And we believe that this is going to improve productivity. This is going to boost morale. This is going to benefit the company in these 3 ways. And then if they still fail to recognize that and implement that, hey, everybody can go on record and show that, and that company should be held accountable. But again, we're trusting these managers for what? Most of my managers, like I said, they are the fool. I don't have any confidence. I don't have any trust in them. Like, honestly, I feel like I would be a great manager. But when I ask myself, is this something that I want to take on? Because do I want to deal with the difficult people out there? I expect you to come in, do your job, be responsible, act like an adult. But how many people do that? Not many.
Right.
You got.
So Under the right circumstances, yes, I would take that on. And it's not entirely a matter of money. It would be a matter of, am I really working for a corporation, for a business that implements and actually puts their mission statement and their pillars to practice, which is what y'all were talking about earlier. And under those circumstances, yes, I would definitely take it on, because guess what? If you're not doing your job, you're out of here. And I'm not talking about extenuating circumstances. And I say the same thing applies to myself as well.
Right.
If I'm not doing my job, or I can't do my job for some reason, then I shouldn't have it. Somebody else should be in here doing what I'm not able or not willing to do.
Got it. What was you saying, Riffa? Go ahead.
What I'm saying is corporate America is all about the flavor of the day. So if a senior level employee sees that either training or some program that they got going on in the company is not making any money and there's no return for investments, they're going to stop doing it. And that's just the way it goes in the corporate world. Bottom line, it's all about money.
Yeah.
So I mean that's what makes them go, even though they might not believe in it, but that's what they're preaching to the rest of the team.
Great point. All right. So is everybody got their rebuttals in on this subject?
Yeah, I've got my vent out of the way. I vented.
What about you?
You know me, I can always keep going, but I'm going to stop it right here so that we can get some other interesting information in.
Yeah. All right. So should we shut up on this subject or work on it?
I say we shut up on it until it comes up again.
Which will probably be tomorrow. No, I'm just
possibly. It'll definitely come up again.
Okay. Sound good. We'll shut up on it for the moment. All right.
All right.
So we'll